Inspiring moment, Millionaire discovers Maid teaching his mute son to speak, heartwarming change. Andrew sat at the grand oak desk in his luxurious home, staring blankly at the stacks of paperwork that surrounded him. What good was it to have all this wealth if he felt adrift in his own life? Outside, the sun bathed the picturesque Illinois suburb in warm light, but inside, there was a coldness that lingered. His 10-year-old son, Ethan, had been born mute. Silence filled the space between them, and every day felt like a fresh reminder of Andrew's failures as a father. Guilt wrapped around him like a heavy blanket, leading him to shower Ethan with the latest toys and gadgets. Yet, nothing he bought filled the aching void between them. As days turned to weeks, Andrew watched Ethan play in the living room, eyes distant, laughter muffled by a chasm of understanding that seemed ever wider. The boy had a spirit that soared, yet there was something heavy anchoring it down, something Andrew couldn't even begin to grasp. In the corner of the room, Carmen, the family's maid, moved with quiet determination. She had watched the two of them, feeling the weight of their unspoken words. A single mom from a small town, Carmen poured her heart into her own child, who faced struggles of his own. She understood the longing glances shared between father and son, the silent screams for help. With a glimmer of hope in her eyes, she began introducing Ethan to the world of sign language, her hands dancing through the air, creating connections where silence reigned. One fateful afternoon, Andrew returned home. He paused at the doorway, heart thumping in his chest at the sight before him. Carmen was on the living room floor, Ethan watching her with rapt attention, his little hands mimicking hers. Anger surged through him, igniting a fire he hadn't recognized in years. "What do you think you're doing?" he demanded, disbelief coloring his words. Carmen looked up, unflinching. "Teaching him to communicate, Mr. Andrew," she replied softly, resolve steady in her voice. "Communicate? You think you know better than me?" he snapped, feeling indignation rise within him as he questioned not just her qualifications but her intentions. The air grew thick between them. In that charged moment, Carmen's past spilled forward. "I know what it's like to feel powerless. Ethan deserves a chance to be heard, even if it's not through words. Don't let pride silence you, sir." Her voice rang out, imploring him to understand. As Andrew absorbed her words, something shifted inside him. The reality dawned. True wealth wasn't about the dollar signs on his bank account, but the bonds of love and connection that had been lost. Would he risk everything he knew to step down from his pedestal? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. He took a deep breath, feeling exposed and vulnerable. Yet, the path forward was uncertain. Would accepting Carmen's guidance mean losing the man he thought he was? As a flicker of understanding warmed his heart, Ethan, full of determination, turned his gaze toward Andrew. He began to move his lips, a few trembling attempts at vocalizing his thoughts. Hands reaching instinctively for the signs he had learned, there was an electric tension filling the room that held everyone captive, the community peering in now, breathless, waiting for that pivotal moment when silence might finally break. Would this be the breakthrough they all longed for, or would it further entrench the distance? With so much unknown, Andrew stood frozen, heart racing as the boy before him dared to connect, whispering secrets they both desperately needed. Ethan's lips quivered, fragile and hopeful. He focused hard, eyes narrowing in concentration. Each attempt at sound felt like a monumental leap into an uncharted world. Andrew could hardly breathe, his heart pounding in rhythm with the silent gasps around them. The small boy struggled but pushed on, fingers moving alongside words he was beginning to grasp. "Dad." He finally managed, the word breaking into the air like glass shattering, each syllable layered with both fear and courage. In that moment, Andrew felt a rush of emotions he hadn't allowed himself to experience in years. Hope and despair twisted within him, the weight of his expectations battling against the pure, innocent joy pouring from his son. Tears pooled in Andrew's eyes, reflecting the sunlight pouring through the window and illuminating the room in a golden glow. "Dad, please," Ethan whispered again, this time the urgency in his voice wrapped in a raw vulnerability Andrew couldn't ignore. The boy wanted connection. He wanted to be heard. Carmen stood off to the side, watching with a quiet pride. She had opened a door, and now it was up to Andrew to step through. Her heart raced alongside Andrew's. Could he finally embrace this moment, this life-changing chance for both him and Ethan? Andrew clenched his jaw, fighting back his tears. For far too long, he had cloaked himself in layers of power and money, thinking that would be enough to protect them both. Yet, it became painfully clear, no amount of wealth could purchase the love and understanding he had to earn. "Ethan," Andrew finally spoke, his voice husky. He crouched down to his son's level, extending a trembling hand. I'm here. Teach me." The boy stopped, wide-eyed. Before Andrew could second-guess himself, he mimicked Ethan's gestures, his hands flailing awkwardly at first, clumsy like a child's. The tension slowly dissipated, laughter bubbling up from Carmen and a hesitant smile appearing on Ethan's face. They both watched as Andrew struggled but persisted, connecting through the dance of signs, creating a new rhythm amid broken syllables and clumsy movements. Ethan mirrored his father's enthusiasm. "Why you try?" he urged, urging his dad on with gleeful determination. In that joyful exchange, Andrew felt his heart bloom. He no longer felt alone in this battle against silence. Instead, he was part of something bigger, a conversation filled with unspoken promises. The three of them formed a bubble of warmth, a sanctuary where love could flourish. As laughter filled the air like notes from an unseen orchestra, Andrew knew they were on the brink of change. But deeper questions stirred within him. How could he support this newfound journey? What did it mean for their relationship moving forward, especially with the world watching? Before he could contemplate the answers, a notification beep shattered the moment's bliss. Andrew glanced at his phone. The news headline flashed across the screen, capturing his attention. "Millionaire's son begins to speak, heartwarming details inside." His stomach dropped. The world was eager to witness the private renewal unfolding in their home, but were they ready for that exposure? "Ethan," Andrew whispered, turning to his son, "this is just the beginning." But as the excitement surged inside him, uncertainty loomed ever darker. What would become of their miracle if it was thrust into the unforgiving judgment of the public eye? And at that very moment, just beyond the walls of their sanctuary, the first whispers of an ever-growing community began to stir, turning their sweet secret into something much larger than they could ever have anticipated. Ethan's laughter hung in the air like music, sweet and pure, but Andrew couldn't shake the chill creeping up his spine. The world outside had already begun to take notice, and his heart raced at the thought. He glanced at Carmen, who wore a knowing smile, her eyes alight with possibilities. But within that warmth, Andrew felt an icy tug of fear. "What does that mean for us?" he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. Carmen's expression shifted, the joy momentarily escaping her features. "It means change, Andrew. Good and bad." She stepped closer, her gaze locking onto his. "But we can handle it together. We're in this as a family." The notion felt foreign, yet comforting. He wanted to believe in it. The word family echoed in his mind, a brand new idea that he'd almost forgotten. His life had long been defined by business deals and public appearances. And now, standing in a sunlit room with laughter spilling from his son, he felt the first sparks of something more important. "Do you really think the world is ready for this?" Andrew asked, his eyes darting back to Ethan, who was now signing with wild glee, lost in his world of newfound speech. "What choice do we have?" Carmen replied gently. Her voice carried a steadiness he needed. Ethan deserves to be heard. He deserves to shine. If the world is listening, let us show them how beautiful that journey can be. Andrew nodded, swallowing hard. He knew she was right. They couldn't hide forever. The idea of sharing their story sang in the air with a kind of hopeful clarity that warmed his heart. But the shadows of his past crept back in, doubts clawing at his mind. What if this turned ugly? What if the media distorted their truth, turning their joy into sensationalism? He shook his head as if to dispel the thoughts. We'll have to protect him. Carmen reached out, placing her hand over his. We will. But we can't let fear dictate our actions. It's time for us to step out of our shell, Andrew. You have to trust the love we've built here. Ethan's eyes sparkled as he glanced back at them, a bright smile lighting up his face when he caught their gaze. In that moment, Andrew could see the boy he had always wanted to protect, now standing on the brink of a new life. The sight filled him with an urge to shield this shining light from the world, yet he knew, deep down, that he had to let Ethan be free. Suddenly, Andrew's phone buzzed again, pulling him from his reverie. He braced himself, swiping to check the notification. It was a message from his assistant, a reminder of an upcoming press invitation. Press conference to discuss family legacy and philanthropy. All at once, anxiety jolted through him, but he could hear Ethan's small voice, filled with determination, urging him on. He realized these were the moments that mattered. Not the glossy headlines, not the accolades or possessions, but this. His son's joy, a journey into a world they had yet to explore. Let us do it, he declared suddenly, his voice firm, igniting a warmth inside him. Let us show them who Ethan really is. Carmen's smile broke wide, her bright eyes reflecting pride. But Andrew could sense a storm was brewing just beyond that promise. The moment they shared their story, there would be no turning back. And as they shared a united glance, Andrew felt the weight of expectation push against him. Could their love withstand the scrutiny? The question hung heavy in the air as Ethan cooed once more, "Dad." And with those words, Andrew realized they were stepping into uncharted territory. Would they be lost, or would they thrive in the light? Just beyond the door, a world ready to judge began to take notice. Little did they know, a battle was about to unfold, not just for Ethan's voice, but for the hearts and minds of everyone watching. What lay ahead could change everything. Andrew sat on the edge of the couch, heart racing, as the weight of the impending press conference loomed over him. Ethan's laughter from the other room stood in stark contrast to his anxiety. Carmen was busy preparing the kids, ensuring Ethan had everything he needed. But all Andrew could think about was what they were stepping into. He felt unsteady, like he was balancing on a tightrope stretched above a pit of uncertainty. The world outside was unpredictable, one misstep could send them spiraling downwards. Are you ready? Carmen asked, her voice steady, pulling him back into the moment. She had a way of grounding him, despite the chaos swirling inside. Ready as I'll ever be, he replied, forcing a smile. She reached out and squeezed his hand. Remember, we're doing this for Ethan. His voice matters. Her words lingered, and he hoped they would help him stay anchored. The bright sun continued spilling into their home, illuminating the small moments, the sound of rustling papers, the smell of fresh coffee, and Ethan's cheerful squeals. And then there was a knock at the door. The moment had arrived. Andrew felt a sharp breath hitch in his throat, but Carmen stepped forward, opening the door to reveal a small crew ready to capture the family's story. Cameras and microphones loomed large, but so did the anxious excitement of the people behind them. Good morning, everyone, Carmen greeted them warmly, her confidence shining through. Andrew stood slightly behind her, unsure how to approach the swarm of curious eyes. Where's Ethan? One reporter called out, and Andrew could see the anticipation flickering in their eyes. It hit him then, his son was not just a boy fighting to be heard, he was a beacon of hope. Ethan, sweetheart. Carmen called, her voice clear and inviting, Ethan appeared, running into the living room. Andrew's heart surged at the sight of his son, his face glowing with innocence and determination. He wore a simple shirt emblazoned with a quirky cartoon character, his hair slightly tousled, but he radiated joy. "Hi!" Ethan greeted, waving enthusiastically. The cameras clicked, catching every glimmering moment. Andrew could see the wonder on the reporters' faces mixed with curiosity. They weren't just there to report, they seemed ready to embrace an emotional journey. Carmen knelt beside Ethan. "We're here to share your story, buddy. Are you ready?" Ethan nodded confidently, his eyes darting from one camera to the next. "I'm ready, Mama," he replied, his voice small but powerful. "Okay." Carmen turned to the crew. "Ethan has something he wants to share with everyone." Andrew stepped closer, feeling a surge of pride. Any remaining fears were overshadowed by the pure love he felt for his family. Ethan took a deep breath and gestured to the reporters, his tiny hands moving with excitement. I can speak," he exclaimed, his voice filling the room, while Andrew caught a mix of astonishment and delight among those present. The moment hung in the air, electric and palpable. Andrew could see unshed tears glimmering in some of the reporters' eyes. Something deep inside him shifted, and he realized that, perhaps, this was not just their story, it was a movement. As the questions began to flow, Andrew felt both fear and exhilaration. They spoke about Ethan's journey, the challenges they had faced, and the unexpected triumphs. Each answer from Ethan was met with loud cheers, reflecting not just appreciation but a sense of hope. Yet, despite the joy, Andrew noticed the shadows still lurking. Whenever the conversation shifted to their past or any adversity, he felt that familiar dread creeping back in. They wrapped up the session with laughter, but Andrew could sense the gears still turning in the minds of those journalists. He couldn't help but wonder if they could look past the surface or if the world would only focus on sensational headlines. As they stepped back into the house, Carmen turned to him, her expression softening. "What do you think?" He breathed deeply. "I think it feels good. But this is just the beginning." Her smile faded slightly as she studied him. "And the world out there?" Andrew looked back toward the door, knowing that outside awaited both opportunity and scrutiny. "We'll have to face whatever comes. Together." But as they nestled into the warmth of their home, a new text buzzed on Andrew's phone. He paused when he saw the name attached. Who would be reaching out now? And why did his heart sink? "Carmen," he called, anxiety suddenly gripping him. "I think we might have a bigger problem." The tension in the room thickened as Andrew stared at the phone, his heart hammering against his chest. The name on the screen belonged to James, an old friend turned rival in the business world, someone who thrived on taking advantage of others' misfortunes. "What's wrong?" Carmen asked, her brow furrowing. Andrew's fingers danced nervously over the screen. It's James. He's been following our story, and now he's texted out of the blue." His stomach twisted. Years of rivalry came rushing back, and even the scent of fresh coffee couldn't settle his nerves. "What does he want?" Carmen probed, instinctively stepping closer. "I don't know," Andrew said, glancing at the message again. "But I'm sure it can't be good." He took a breath, steeling himself. "Should I respond?" "Maybe it's just a harmless inquiry," Carmen suggested, even as the worry settled in her voice. She trusted Andrew's instincts. "You could tell him we're busy." "And no," Andrew interrupted, resolve hardening. "He's not the type to take a hint. If he's reaching out, it's to stir the pot." Carmen released a slow breath. "Then let us be cautious." He nodded, awareness prickling at the nape of his neck. The lingering joy of the press conference felt eclipsed by pestering shadows, and a dark thought slipped into his mind. Was James trying to exploit Ethan's breakthrough for his own gain? He sat down, holding the phone tightly, eyes locked on the text. "Andrew," Carmen said softly, kneeling beside him, "is there something more?" He glanced at her, seeing the flicker of fear in her eyes. I just can't shake this feeling, Carmen. He's always been jealous of what we have. I wouldn't put it past him to twist the narrative of Ethan's story into a weapon. Her expression hardened, both empathy and strength radiating from her. We'll protect Ethan. But we can't let fear dictate our actions. Taking a deep breath, Andrew opened the message. It read, "Glad to see the press is interested in your family. Couldn't help but think you might need a little boost. Let's chat." Sounds like a threat, Andrew muttered, anger rising. Like he thinks we should give him something or else. What do you want to do? Carmen asked, her voice steady. He hesitated, weighing his options. Part of him wanted to draw a line, set boundaries, and outright ignore James. But another part, one driven by a need to protect their newfound momentum and Ethan's voice, pushed him to play carefully. I think we need to lure him in, Andrew finally said. Find out what he really wants. Carmen looked surprised, a mix of admiration and apprehension in her expression. You think talking to him will help? It might, Andrew replied, his mind racing. If he thinks I'm interested, maybe he'll expose his plans. We can be ready for whatever he's scheming. A moment of silence settled between them, the weight of uncertainty still hanging in the air. Yet, the determination in Andrew's gaze matched Carmen's. They were a team. In this battle, they would face everything together. All right, she said. But we stay on guard. Andrew nodded, deciding to respond to the text. Let us meet. But as soon as things get sketchy, we're out. As he hit send, an unsettling mix of dread and anticipation coursed through him. He understood the stakes. This was more than just family now, it had become a mission. Suddenly, a sound erupted from the living room. Ethan was calling for them, his laughter ringing out like a melody amidst the tension. Andrew felt a surge of warmth as he realized what this moment meant for his son, a chance to stand strong and be heard. Come on, let us go see him, Carmen urged, standing up and reaching for Andrew's hand. Together, they moved toward the sunny living room. Yet in the back of Andrew's mind, the lingering dread festered. Was James the storm they needed to weather? As they rounded the corner, Ethan's bright eyes met theirs, twinkling with joys of the moment. And Andrew couldn't shake the sense that deeper waters waited ahead, ones that could drown hopes or ignite change. What would James bring to the forefront? In that moment of joy and uncertainty, the looming question remained: could they hold on to the brightness while keeping shadows at bay? The moment they entered the living room, the bright sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating Ethan's face as he gleefully built a tower of colorful blocks. It was a simple scene, yet it felt like a shield against the storm brewing outside. Andrew took a second to soak it in. His son's laughter was a melody that cut through the tension hanging in the air. Look, Mommy. Look, Daddy. Ethan exclaimed, his eyes sparkling as he added another block to his tower. I made it taller. You did such a great job, buddy. Carmen beamed, her face lighting up as she knelt beside him. Andrew felt a swell of pride. This was Ethan, pure and unfiltered, drawing joy from something so simple. He wanted to bottle this happiness, save it for later when the conversation with James inevitably weighed heavy on their spirits, but even as he joined his family on the floor, a distant nagging thought clawed at him. What was James plotting? What could he possibly want with Ethan's story? Can I help? Andrew asked, picking up a blue block. Yeah. You can be my builder. Ethan grinned, handing him pieces with unfiltered enthusiasm. Andrew couldn't help but smile back, feeling the warmth in his chest expand with each moment of connection. But the looming storm was ever present in the back of his mind. James was a master manipulator, and Andrew knew he had to tread carefully. Hey, do you want to show Daddy how to do it? Carmen encouraged, steering the conversation to each small success Ethan achieved. Okay. Ethan cheered, his little hands showcasing how to balance blocks together. Each time one teetered and fell, he erupted into a fit of giggles, his laughter contagious. Andrew couldn't resist joining in, the sounds of joy enveloping them like a blanket, yet, as the playtime continued, the laughter caught in Andrew's throat whenever his phone vibrated on the table. Each time he glanced at it, a sad weight settled in his stomach. James might as well have been pulling the strings on their joyful moment. "Ethan, how about we go outside for a bit?" Andrew finally suggested, needing to break away from the confines of their home and clear his mind. "Outside?" Ethan echoed, jumping to his feet. "Let us go." Carmen took Andrew's hand as they walked to the door together, their fingers intertwined, a lifeline in an uncertain sea. Outside, the air was tinged with the scent of fresh grass and blooming flowers. The playground across the street loomed, full of children laughing and playing. For a heartbeat, Andrew surrendered to the peace of this ordinary moment. Ethan ran ahead, giggling as he raced toward the swings, while Carmen called out reminders to hold on to the chains. But even in their fleeting joy, Andrew couldn't help but think about James. What if their meeting didn't go as planned? What if he turned the narrative twisted, using what they had built together against them? "Everything okay?" Carmen asked, her voice breaking through his spiraling thoughts. "Yeah, just thinking about our meeting with James," he admitted, glancing back at her. Carmen nodded, understanding the unspoken weight of his words. "Just remember, no matter what happens, we're a team. We have to believe in ourselves and Ethan." With her words wrapping around him like a protective shawl, Andrew took a deep breath, pushing aside his fears, diving back into their world with Ethan's laughter ringing in his ears. The swings creaked rhythmically as Ethan pumped his legs, reaching for the sky, with each swing a reminder that he was moving forward, not standing still. "Higher, Daddy, higher!" Ethan shouted, his joy palpable and contagious. Andrew's heart surged with hope. They would face whatever came together if they stayed true to each other. Maybe they could weather the storm James would bring. But even as he smiled, the phone buzzed again, a disruptor in their whirlwind of joy, and Andrew couldn't shake the thought. What awaited them on the other side of that call? As he turned toward Carmen, he saw reflections of uncertainty mirroring his own. How long could light triumph over shadows? Just then, Carmen's phone rang. The name flashed on the screen showing a photo of her mother. "Do you want to take it?" Andrew asked, feeling the mix of joy for her and worry for himself. "Just a sec," she said, swiping to accept the call. As her warm voice spilled out towards her mother, Andrew couldn't help but fixate on that vibrating phone still waiting for his attention. Who was really on the line? That question lingered heavy in the air, and Andrew felt the familiar weight of uncertainty creeping back in again. How soon would they find out what James really wanted? And what sacrifices must they make to protect what mattered most? Ethan's laughter shrieked into the crisp afternoon air, but even that sweet sound couldn't drown out the sound of Andrew's heart racing. He turned his attention from Carmen and the playful banter onto his phone. It vibrated again. He hesitated, then shoved it into his pocket, intentionally focusing on the boy who was now soaring higher in the swings, his little legs pumping with joy. "Daddy! Look at me!" Ethan squealed, flying through the air like a little bird. Andrew laughed, desperate to bottle this happiness and store it away. "You're flying, champ. Just don't forget to come back down." Carmen was still engrossed in her conversation, her face radiating warmth as she spoke to her mother. That moment felt timeless, the sun reflecting off the swings, casting golden light on their world while shadows loomed heavy over Andrew's thoughts. With every buzz of his phone, his pulse quickened. Each vibration pulled him away from this idyllic scene, like a fisherman desperately trying to reel a nurturing bond back in as it threatened to slip. Suddenly, the call ended. Carmen pocketed her phone and walked over, her smile fading into concern as she saw the look on Andrew's face. "Hey, is everything okay?" she asked, stepping in closer, instinctively wrapping an arm around his waist. Andrew took a breath, ready to pour out everything that had been festering inside him. "I just can't shake the feeling that something is off. James is unpredictable, and what if he doesn't leave us alone? Carmen took a moment before responding, tilting her head slightly. We can't control what James does. But we can control how we respond. He doesn't know what we have, the love we share, the strength of our family. Her words wrapped around him. She always seemed to know how to soothe the tidal waves of worry threatening to crash. Andrew nodded, appreciating her grounded perspective. Let us just focus on Ethan and this moment, right? She added, coaxing him toward the swings where Ethan's laughter seemed to pierce the clouds. They joined Ethan, whose gleeful shouts and requests for pushes pulled Andrew back into the moment. With every little push, they created ripples of joy and love, each touch a silent reminder of what truly mattered. Then came the moment of truth. Ethan launched himself off the swing, crashing into a small mound of grass. He flipped and rolled, standing back up with a triumphant shout. Did you see that? I'm a superhero. Andrew felt a surge of joy mixed with terror as he watched his son's fearless spirit. You're the best superhero ever, buddy. But maybe no more flying for a bit, okay? Ha! No way. Ethan laughed, racing towards the slide, the very embodiment of boldness. But behind that bright exterior, doubt wove through Andrew. The weight of the unknown pressed heavier, and he couldn't shake the feeling that their normalcy was on borrowed time. What agreement had he unwittingly signed by letting James into their lives? Carmen sensed the shift in Andrew's energy and gently squeezed his hand, grounding him. We'll face whatever comes, together. Remember how we always tell Ethan to be brave? We need that same courage. Yeah, Andrew whispered, almost to himself. He nodded, but uncertainty gripped him. How far would they have to go to protect their happiness? As twilight crept in, washing their world in softer hues, they made their way back home, Ethan skipping ahead. The familiar comfort of home loomed like a blanket they could snuggle into. Yet, it felt threadbare, stretched too thin by the weight of impending confrontation. Entering their house, the phone buzzed once more, slicing through the fading light. Andrew froze, his heart in his throat. It was the call he dreaded, and at that moment, all the uncertainties piled up like storm clouds on the horizon. Andrew? Carmen's soft voice was laced with a mix of concern and anticipation, pulling him back from the brink. Do you want to check it? He glanced toward Ethan, who was chasing shadows in the fading light. Whatever James was up to, Andrew knew it was a storm approaching, a challenge to the rooted family they had fought to build. Taking a deep breath, he reached for his phone, the screen lighting up with James' name. What faced them on the other side of this call? Would it alter everything they had built? With trembling fingers, Andrew accepted the call, tension rising in the room. The calm before the storm hung heavy, waiting to break. Andrew pressed the phone to his ear, the weight of the world on his shoulders. He could hear a faint rustle on the other end. Then came the voice he both dreaded and couldn't avoid. Andrew. It's James. Yeah. I figured, Andrew replied, trying to keep his voice steady, though it trembled just a bit. He caught Carmen's gaze, her eyes wide with concern, and he felt the grip of her hand tighten around his. Listen, I need to talk to you. It's important, James said, the urgency seeping into his tone. Important? You think you can just call and bother me? You have no business in our lives anymore, Andrew shot back, feeling the anger climb up his spine like a tidal wave. Maybe, but I don't think you're fully aware of everything happening. Something big is coming, and I want to make sure you're ready. Andrew's heart raced. What did that mean? He resisted the urge to let panic set in. Ready for what? They're watching, James replied cryptically. You've painted a target on your back. I don't want anything to happen to Ethan. The mention of his son jolted Andrew. His world twisted like an anchor pulling him down into a sea of dread. What do you know about my son? About us? More than you think. I want to help. Just hear me out, James added, his voice softer now, almost pleading. The notion that James, a figure who had brought so much chaos into their lives, could ever help felt surreal. "You've got a funny way of showing it. Last time we spoke, you threatened everything we had." "I was angry, Andrew. I get it, you're protecting your family. But sometimes that makes us blind," he responded, an edge of desperation creeping into his voice. Carmen leaned in closer, her expression a mixture of disbelief and intrigue. "You can't be serious. How do I know you're not just trying to manipulate us again?" Andrew swallowed hard, his mind racing. "We have a history. But think about it, what is the point of living in fear? If I'm the only bridge to keep you safe." The calm in James' tone unnerved Andrew. He thought about Ethan, that bright spirit full of dreams and innocent bravery. The thought of danger closing in turned his stomach. "Andrew," Carmen murmured, sensing his growing unease. "Maybe we should listen. Find out what he means. Just let me think, okay?" Andrew snapped back, feeling the conflict swirl within him. "Why should I trust you? Last time we spoke, you walked away with my trust in pieces." "I know," James agreed quietly. "But we're on the same side now, whether you want to believe it or not. Think of Ethan. You can protect him, but you need to get ahead of what's coming." With each word, Andrew felt the pull of uncertainty. This phone call was turning into a web of confusion and fear, and he could sense the growing storm outside echoing his internal tumult. "Let us meet," James suggested, breaking through Andrew's spiraling thoughts. "Just hear me out. I have information that could change everything." The silence hung between them, heavy with 1,000 unsaid words. Andrew looked at Carmen, who gave him an encouraging nod. But fear clawed at him, rooted in memories of betrayal. "Fine," Andrew finally said, forcing the words past his tightening throat. "But if you even think about pulling anything." "I get it," James interrupted. "Meet me tomorrow, same place. Just trust me this once." The call ended abruptly, leaving Andrew staring at the darkening screen. What did he want? Carmen whispered, her hand still gripping his tightly. "He claims to want to help," Andrew replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I don't know what to believe anymore." Ethan rushed back in, joy radiating from him. "Did you talk to him? Can we go get ice cream?" He beamed, oblivious to the tension. Andrew kneeled to meet Ethan at his eye level, masking his worries with a smile. "Sure thing, bud. But let us just stay together, okay?" As father and son shared a moment, Carmen's hand slipped from Andrew's, his heart heavy with conflicting emotions. A new realization dawned: the storm was closer than he thought, and tomorrow might just change everything. They stepped outside, Ethan's laughter trailing behind them like a ray of light breaking through the clouds. But Andrew couldn't shake the chill that ran down his spine. Something was coming, and the world felt fragile underfoot. What had James meant by their watching? As they headed down the street, Andrew demanded an answer from the universe, holding on to hope even as fear clawed at his heart. Would his family survive the storm on the horizon? Tomorrow. Tomorrow would come with truth. But would it be the truth they wanted to hear? Dawn broke with an icy chill that seeped through the windows of Andrew's home. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, guilt gnawing at him like a hungry animal. The memory of yesterday's call echoed in his mind, each word twisted into a knot of confusion. When James mentioned Ethan, it struck a nerve. The thought of anyone threatening his child's safety turned Andrew's stomach in knots. Carmen stirred beside him, her brow furrowed in sleep, but even in her dreams, she sensed his turmoil. Quietly, he slipped out of bed and padded down the hallway, memories of laughter and love trailing behind him like ghosts. Ethan was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table, gnawing on a piece of toast. His golden curls were tousled, and his bright blue eyes sparkled with innocent energy. "Dad! Can we make pancakes today?" he yelled, breaking the silence like a burst of sunlight. Andrew forced a smile. "Pancakes it is." They made a mess of flour and eggs, Ethan's laughter filling the room. As they worked side by side, Andrew tried to breathe in the joy of the moment, but the phone call lurked at the edge of his consciousness like a shadow. Each time Ethan asked about the ice cream promised for later, Andrew's heart tightened further. After breakfast, Carmen joined them, rubbing her eyes and stifling a yawn. Immediately, her gaze flicked to Andrew, searching for answers he didn't have. They shared an unspoken understanding. They both felt the weight of yesterday's conversation, the impending confrontation looming like dark clouds. "Ethan, how about we go take a walk in the park?" Carmen suggested, sensing the tension in Andrew's body. "Just us three, like old times." Ethan clapped his hands with glee, but as they walked through the crisp autumn air, Andrew's mind was elsewhere. The vibrant colors of the leaves and the laughter of other families began to fade into the background. With every step, his heart felt heavier. "Dad?" Ethan's voice cut through the fog of Andrew's worries. "Are you sad?" Staring down into those trusting eyes made Andrew's heart ache. How could he explain that the world was not as safe as they hoped? Instead, he knelt beside Ethan, taking his little hands in his. "No, buddy. Just thinking about grown-up stuff." "But you can't get stuck in your head," Ethan insisted, his wise little face earnest. "You always say it's better to laugh than to frown." Andrew chuckled softly, fighting the tears prickling at the corners of his eyes. "You're right, buddy. I promise to remember that." Carmen watched the two of them, her heart swelling with affection. Yet she couldn't ignore the tension in Andrew's shoulders. When they returned home, the weight of their situation crashed back down on them. Time was running out for the meeting with James, and the uncertainty twisted like a knife in Andrew's gut in the afternoon. While Ethan played in his room, Andrew and Carmen found themselves in the living room, their conversation quiet but intense. "What if James is right? What if we really are in danger?" Carmen's voice trembled slightly. Andrew shook his head. "I don't know, but I don't trust him. He's the one who brought chaos into our lives." "But think about it, Andrew. Is it worth the risk? We could stay stuck in fear forever, or we could at least see what he has to say." She was right. The thought of inaction filled him with dread. Not just for himself, but for Ethan. Later that evening, as the sun began to set, Andrew stood on their front porch, a mixture of nerves and determination coursing through him. He glanced toward the street, where shadows danced as night crept in. "Are you ready for this?" Carmen asked softly. Andrew sighed deeply, his heart pulsing with anxiety. "I guess we'll find out," he replied. "But I don't feel great about it." The door creaked open behind him as Ethan rushed out, barely able to contain his excitement. "Can we go get ice cream now?" With a small smile, Andrew ruffled his son's hair. "Yes, we will, after we meet with James." Ethan's innocent grin lit up the evening, but Andrew could feel the storm brewing inside him. A rush of fear collided with a flicker of hope. He turned to Carmen, their eyes locking. "This is for Ethan," she whispered, though Andrew could hear the tremor in her voice. "Yeah," he breathed. As he took a deep breath, the weight of the unknown pressed down again. Was facing James the answer they needed, or simply another step into the darkness? Night had fallen when the phone buzzed to life. Andrew's heart raced, and the screen glowed with James's name. He hesitated, staring at it like it was a live wire. Past the fear, he could see there was no turning back now, but what if tomorrow led them down a path they weren't prepared for? Would the darkness they faced be worth whatever truth lay ahead? The answer hung in the air, vivid and insistent. Andrew pressed, accept, and dread chased hope away. What awaited him on the other side of that call? Andrew felt the chill of dawn wrap around him as he prepared for the impending meeting with James. The subtle sunlight creeping through the curtains cast a warm glow against the cold dread settling in the pit of his stomach. He watched Ethan, blissfully oblivious in his cereal-induced childhood joy, and his heart swelled with a mix of love and protectiveness. But looming over their happy morning were the unknowns, the shadow of Jane's intentions danced dangerously close, and the erratic heartbeat of anxiety echoed in Andrew's chest. "Dad, can we go to the park today?" Ethan beamed, his voice bubbling with excitement. That innocent request felt like a slice of warm sunshine piercing through layers of uncertainty. Andrew leaned down to meet his son's gaze. "Absolutely, kiddo. The park sounds perfect." Ethan squealed with delight, clapping his hands together, and for a brief moment, the tightness in Andrew's chest eased. Carmen entered the kitchen, her hair pulled back, a coffee mug cradled in her hands. Caught between offers of comfort and questions about James, Andrew struggled to ground himself before the family's fate unraveled. Yet, there was an undeniable strength in Carmen's eyes, a flicker of resilience ignited by their shared burdens. "We'll tackle today as a family," she said firmly, her voice steady and reassuring. After breakfast, they headed towards the park. The atmosphere felt lighter, infused with fragrant autumn leaves and laughter. Ethan raced ahead, pure and unrestrained in his enthusiasm. Each moment seemed sacred, leaning on the familiar backdrop of hope and warmth that now surrounded them. At the park, they watched Ethan glide down the slides, soaring on swings, lost in his joyous chaos of childhood. Despite the delightful distraction, Andrew's mind simmered with concern. He stole glances at his phone, debating whether to message James. "Breathe," Carmen whispered gently. She stood beside him, her hand resting on his forearm. "Whatever happens doesn't change the love we have here." The waiting stretched long, but when the sun began dipping low in the sky, Andrew felt the time slip through his fingers. "I need to go see James," he finally murmured, heart pounding with both anxiety and determination. Carmen glanced at him, her eyes searching, but she nodded with resoluteness. "We'll figure this out, Andrew. Together." As their family returned home, fate had other plans. A notification buzzed on Andrew's phone: "James, 30 minutes away." He swallowed the sudden lump in his throat as anxiety gripped him. How would he shield Ethan from the fallout? "Ethan, buddy, why don't you play in your room for a bit?" "We'll be there shortly," Andrew suggested, trying to keep his voice light. Ethan nodded, ever trusting, racing off with excitement still bubbling in his veins. As Andrew and Carmen prepared for what lay ahead, worry pressed heavily against them. "Let us stick to our plan. Stay focused on Ethan," Carmen reminded, her voice threaded with care. Andrew felt fortified by her presence, as if his fears couldn't reach him. While they stood united, just as the doorbell rang, Andrew's heart raced wildly. He took a moment, inhaling deeply, and then opened the door to find James standing there, expression shrouded, yet something flickered in his eyes, an urgency that caught Andrew off guard. "Let us talk," James said, stepping past Andrew into the home they fought to build. They settled into the living room, the shadows gathering in corners and the tension thick in the air. James wasted no time, leaning forward with intensity. "There's been a spike in interest around your family. Not all of it is good." Andrew's pulse quickened, his mind racing. "What do you mean?" James hesitated, then continued. "You need to understand, Andrew. Media can twist stories. They want sensationalism, and Ethan's breakthrough makes him a target." That word "target" hit Andrew like a punch. "What do you suggest? Just hide away and hope it goes away?" James leaned back, running a hand over his hair in frustration. "No. But you have to be proactive. Control your narrative. You need to show Ethan and your family united." Andrew's instinct screamed mistrust. "And why should I believe you? The last time you were involved, everything fell apart." A flicker of hurt crossed James' features. "I know, and I can't change the past. But I'm offering you a way to protect what you've built. I'm not here to undermine you, I want to help." Carmen glanced at Andrew, her expression cautious yet curious. "What's the catch, James?" "There isn't one," he replied, suddenly earnest. "I want to ensure the story stays positive. But I need your cooperation. Share your journey, the struggles, the triumphs. The weight of the proposal settled like lead in Andrew's chest. The very thought of parading their struggles felt raw and intrusive. And if I say no? Andrew demanded, standing firm. James looked directly into his eyes, unyielding. Then you risk losing everything. This precious bond with your son could shatter if it's mishandled. This could explode on social media, and it's not just sensationalism, it's lives impacted. Ethan's voice deserves the chance to shine, and if you're not prepared, fear will win. The silence hung heavily between them, thick and palpable. Andrew's heart raced, linking itself to the turmoil of his life. Could he trust James, the agent of chaos, to lead them toward a path of safety? In the end, it wasn't just about the choices before him. It was about Ethan, a boy with a bright, hopeful spirit whose laughter echoed through the walls of this home, compelling Andrew to rise for the future they deserved. He couldn't let fear guide him anymore. All right, Andrew said firmly, resolve settling over him like the first rays of morning light. But we do this together, as a family. James nodded tentatively, relief visible in his eyes. You're making the right choice. I promise to guide you through this. And with those words, the path ahead was illuminated, a swirling mix of challenges and hope. They would step out into the light, together, because love and determination could silence even the loudest shadows. Let us show the world who Ethan really is, Andrew declared, feeling a sense of empowerment fill him. The commitment sparked a fire within him. Besides the fear, they had forged an unbreakable bond. As they looked ahead, the future felt uncertain yet transformative with endless possibilities, and as they moved forward, Andrew felt clear, fierce joy ignite anew, like stars bursting forth in the night sky. Don't hesitate. Now it's your turn to join the journey. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let us grow together. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about this inspiring ending. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second.